Hello. I guess it's enough to say this is the first time I've done this. But since I decided to show progress weekly, and since I have really only uploaded speed draws of the animations, I decided to make this diary to explain things and organize ideas. I think first of all I should give context. If you check the channel you will see that the first video is a trailer for the Kuga mod in Rivals of Aether, and that I was recently uploading the speed draws of the Kamen Rider 01 animations. At this moment these are the animations that I have made. Most of the progress has already been seen as a speed draw. I'm really happy with most of them. Even so, there are some that I don't know if I'm entirely happy with. I'll probably have to take some time to tinker and fix minor issues. For example, because I insisted on using that pose for the idle animation, it took me a long time to make a convincing walk. And in the end I had to discard the part of the transition between animations. The game by default does not place an intermediate animation between idle and walking. But honestly I think I ended up putting code to make a specific animation just for that. Another thing a colleague recommended to me was to add a cyber wake effect on the jump. Doing improvised tests, I like the idea, but for it to be convincing, I would have to program it again. By the way, to make the animations, and please clarify that I am an amateur, there are probably much better techniques that allow greater depth. What I do is first put together a skeleton of the character, in my case focusing on its most relevant joints and its general shape, to then finish outlining the shape and finally add the details. And to try to make the animations feel appropriate as much as possible, I try to take advantage of promotional arts and key moments of their fights to give it flavor. Sometimes the change of perspective doesn't help much, but I do what I can. I must comment that although the design of 01 is very simple, it is also fine and elegant. And many times I come across small details that I am ashamed to leave behind, or finding myself in the situation of exaggerating others so as not to feel that a specific part is boring. Still, I can't say that I dislike the reconstruction. Just make it clear that when I set out to make the design, I didn't think about the tendency of the writers from the first Reiwa series to have a priori simplistic figures loaded with micro details. But returning to the topic of the process, I think I should clarify that I've been focusing on having his base movement animations before attacks or specialized things. I honestly admit that spectacular and epic attacks are much more fun to work on. But trying to keep things in order, I prefer to leave the moveset at the end. Partly because it is the fun part, partly to be able to plan well. I guess one of the most important points is what happens with their transformations, especially after Kuga, where it was a leading element. It's actually a strange point with 01. In his case it follows a scheme similar to that of Kuga himself, and in fact a similar mechanic would not look strange in the gameplay either. But frankly it is unfeasible for me. Mainly because although in Kuga the general shape is the same, then the details could be suggested well with changes to the palette through code. 01 has a lot of changes between forms. For the same reason, if I wanted to do the same as with Kuga, I would have to multiply the animation work by 5. I guess I want to preserve the life I have left. And let's not even talk about Shining Hopper, Metal Rusher or 02. Technically it would be more feasible, but we are not making Hibiki or Blade. To 01 date the final forms are not really what should stand out either. In any case in 01 I think there are 3 extremes. The fantasy of doing the same as in Kuga, allowing it to have an exclusive special for changing modes, and then a few exclusive moves for each one representing their special attacks. And in addition to giving it an extra level of versatility with the invocation of the keys. I admit that it is what I would like, but I can't think of a reasonable way to do it. Completely ignore the forms and focus on his base skills. Yes, despite how boring it sounds, it is a good option. Even so, in retrospect 01 has no other gimmick apart from his forms. The truth is somewhat sad for a Raider Rewa. But it is a possibility that can be saved in case of emergency. After all, with Kuga, forms are his defining characteristic. For 01 it's not really their main focus. Or I could make the transformations part of his specials animations. Something very sane. Probably because it is the most feasible option in most cases. But for the same reason I'm afraid that it will be boring by itself. It's probably what I do but adding some gimmicks so it doesn't feel empty. But in any case, if anyone comes up with a crazy idea that I wouldn't have considered, please let me know. In between I will be doing movement animations and basic attacks, so a good idea may still come to me with an idea that makes me rethink the entire moveset. Although ignoring his flying form as a special above would be stupid, cough cough. Of course that is, I must maintain its typical characteristics, like his constant sprints and dashes. Or his agile and fast style. Even apart from being able to fly. Of course I must include the attaché caliber. For a weapon that is. And of course your finisher must be his rider kick. I think I went on a bit, but I think that with this I made more or less clear everything I wanted to get rid of. I have ignored talking too much about programming, but largely because I doubt most people enjoy seeing someone writing code or talking about variables and functions. Likewise, we are still in the standard for this type of mods. We will see in the future. In any case, good evening everyone.